Before we go deeper into this story, take 1 second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who loves powerful human science fiction. It helps the channel grow, and it tells me you want more stories like this. The distress signal came in at 3:17 ship time. It did not sound like a normal emergency beacon. A normal beacon was clean. It carried codes, location, damage level, and survival status. It repeated the same packet again and again with cold machine patience. This one was different. It screamed. Every speaker on the bridge of the UEN Vanguard came alive at once, and for 1 hard second, nobody moved. The sound was rough, broken, and full of panic. It cut through the quiet bridge like a blade. I had heard battle alarms before. I had heard dying ships call for help. I had heard officers beg for rescue while fire ate through their decks. But this sound was something else. It was fear from a species that never showed fear. Lieutenant Lucy Penn looked up from communications. Her face had gone pale under the blue glow of her console. "Commander," she said, "the signal is coming from Relay Station CO7. I was already standing. Isolate it." Lucy moved fast. Her hands crossed the controls with clean, practiced skill. She was the best signals officer in the United Earth Navy. She could pull meaning from static. She could read emotion in broken code. She could find a whisper inside a storm. Within seconds, the main display changed. An alien face appeared. Tall skull. Silver skin. Dark eyes. Thin mouth. Valith. The Valith were one of the oldest civilizations in the known galaxy. They had built star roads before humans had built stone cities. They spoke slowly, moved gracefully, and never seemed shaken by anything. The Valith considered panic a failure of discipline. This one was panicking. The translation software caught up a second later. Relay Station CO7 under attack. Dreth Assault Fleet has seized outer defense ring. Boarding teams inside civilian decks. Over 2,000 civilians trapped. Multiple species present. Human citizens present. Station security overwhelmed. We request immediate aid. Please respond. Please send help. The final word stayed on the screen. Help. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Not because we did not understand. Because we understood too well. Commander Catherine Moore, my executive officer, stepped beside me. She did not need to ask what I was thinking. Catherine had served with me for 6 years. She knew my face when I was angry, and she knew my face when I was already making a decision. How far? I asked. 5 hours and 40 minutes at standard high burn, she said. 5 if we push the engines. I looked at the tactical chart. CO7 was a neutral commerce station in the border region between Valith Space, Dreth-controlled territory, and several smaller trade worlds. It was supposed to be protected by neutrality laws. Merchants used it. Diplomats used it. Families passed through it. It had shops, living quarters, medical bays, temples, food courts, and docking arms for hundreds of small vessels. It was not a fortress. It was not meant to survive a military attack. What do we know about the Dreth force? I asked. Lucy pulled up the first scan from the station beacon. 14 Dreth warships. 2 heavy cruisers. 4 destroyers. 8 frigates. A clean occupation formation. The heavy cruisers sat near the station's main traffic lanes. The destroyers held wide angles, ready to cut off escape. The frigates circled close, running sensor sweeps and blocking every approach route. It was professional. Cold. Confident. It was also cruel. The Dreth did not need 14 ships to take a relay station. They had brought that force for a reason. They wanted everyone to see it. They wanted every small species in the region to understand that laws were only words unless someone strong enough was willing to enforce them. Lucy turned in her chair. There is more, sir. Go ahead. I intercepted a diplomatic back channel. The Valith government contacted the nearest human outpost. They requested assistance. That was fast, Catherine said. Lucy did not smile. They did not request military support. My eyes moved to her. What did they ask for? Lucy swallowed. A shuttle, sir. Nobody spoke. A shuttle, I repeated. Yes, sir. Their message says they only need a transport shuttle to remove human citizens from the station. They said the full military matter will be handled through proper Galactic Council channels. I looked back at the screen. 14 Dreth warships. 2,000 civilians. And the oldest diplomatic power in the galaxy had asked humanity for a shuttle. I understood why. Everyone in the galaxy thought they knew what humans were. Young. Small. Clever. Useful. Emotional. Brave in a loud and reckless way, but not dangerous. Not truly dangerous. We had one home system, a handful of colonies, a few patrol fleets, and a public navy made of light destroyers and escort frigates. That was what the galaxy saw. That was what we allowed them to see. For 42 years, humanity had smiled at every summit. We had traded fairly, kept our promises, accepted insults with patience, and let older powers treat us like children at a table built by adults. They thought we were harmless. They thought we were weak. They thought we needed permission. The Dreth were about to learn that humanity had been very patient, not helpless. I turned toward the command chair and touched the ship-wide channel. A soft tone passed through every corridor, deck, engine room, weapons bay, fighter cradle, and marine barracks aboard the largest vessel ever built by human hands. This is Commander Daniel Hale. All hands to battle stations. Repeat, all hands to battle stations. We are moving to engage hostile forces at CO7. The response came before my hand left the control. Lights changed from white to deep red. Security doors sealed. Weapon teams came alive. Reactor output began climbing. The low sleeping hum of the ship became something deeper, heavier, and alive. The UEN Vanguard woke up. And when she woke, the deck trembled under my boots. The Vanguard was not a shuttle. She was not a frigate. She was not even one of the destroyers humanity showed during joint patrols. She was a Titan-class dreadnought. 4 kilometers from bow to stern. Layered quantum armor across her hull. Primary energy batteries built to pierce capital ships. Missile systems that could think faster than most pilots. Point defense so dense it could turn a missile storm into dust. Fighter bays holding 64 Valkyrie strike craft. Marine decks carrying 200 armored soldiers trained for station boarding and hostage rescue. And mounted along her spine was the weapon that every engineer aboard called Godhammer. A particle cannon 300 meters long. A weapon built for one purpose. To end a battle with one shot. No alien government knew the Vanguard existed. No alien admiral had planned for her. No Dreth commander had feared her. Yet. Nathan, I said. At the helm, Lieutenant Nathan Cross looked back with a calm smile. He was too young to be as good as he was, and too good to be replaced by anyone else. Course is ready, sir. Push the engines. I want 5 hours. He raised one eyebrow. The engineers will hate me. They already hate you. They hate me with respect, sir. Then make it 5. Nathan turned back to the controls. The stars on the main screen stretched into white lines. The Vanguard accelerated. For 5 hours, the galaxy remained unaware that its balance of power was moving through the dark at impossible speed. During the first hour, reports came in from every department. Weapons ready. Shields warming. Reactors stable. Medical prepared. Marine teams suiting. Fighter crews armed and standing by. Every word was calm. Every voice controlled. That was the strange thing about humans. When danger was far away, we joked. When danger arrived, we became quiet. Catherine stood beside my chair with a tablet in her hand. You know what happens when we arrive, she said. It was not a question. Yes. The Vanguard stops being a secret. Yes. Every power in the galaxy will ask how long we have had her. Yes. Some will be grateful. Yes. Some will be afraid. I expect so. And some will decide we are the threat. I looked at her. Maybe they should ask why we felt the need to build her. Catherine watched me for a moment. Her gray eyes were steady, but there was something sharp behind them. New Bristol, she said quietly. The name passed through the bridge like cold air. New Bristol. A human colony on the edge of our territory. 600 people. Farmers. Teachers. Engineers. Children. 18 years earlier, a Dreth raiding force had entered the system, burned the settlement, destroyed the power grid, and fired on rescue craft as they tried to land. The attack lasted 53 minutes. The grief lasted forever. Humanity took the case to the Galactic Council. We showed the evidence. We showed the bodies. We showed the names. The Council expressed regret. The Dreth denied involvement. The Valeth asked for calm. The trade powers urged restraint. Nothing happened. 600 humans died, and the galaxy continued as if it had only been a weather report. That was the day humanity learned the real law of space. Justice was respected only when it came with power behind it. The Vanguard was born from that lesson. Not from hatred. Not from a dream of conquest. From memory. From grief. From the promise that no human colony would ever again burn while our leaders waited for permission to defend us. Lucy spoke from communications. Commander, I have something. Put it up. The main screen filled with translated text. A Dreth command transmission. It was encrypted, but Lucy had cut it open like paper. The sender was Fleet Commander Vrek Soden. My hands tightened on the armrests. I knew that name. Every officer in human naval intelligence knew that name. Vrek Soden had commanded the task force suspected in the New Bristol attack. Suspected was the word diplomats used when they lacked the courage to say proven. The evidence had always been there. The Council had simply refused to touch it. Soden's message was addressed to Dreth Central Command. He reported that CO7 had been secured. Station defense was neutralized. Hostages were under control. Civilian resistance was weak. Dreth forces held all major decks. Then came the part that made the bridge colder. Soden had intercepted the Valeth request to humanity. He expected us to send a single shuttle. Maybe a corvette if we wanted to appear brave. He ordered his ships to allow the human vessel to approach. He wanted the humans aboard to see the station in Dreth hands. He wanted them to understand that their species had no power outside their little border. He called it a lesson. I read that word twice. A lesson. Catherine looked at me. He wants witnesses. I nodded. He will have them. What are you going to do? I looked at the red icon surrounding CO7. I am going to teach him a better lesson. If this story has pulled you in, give the video a like and subscribe before the Vanguard reaches the battlefield. Share it with someone who enjoys stories where humanity stops hiding and starts standing tall. The second hour of travel passed with the ship tightening around us like a fist. In the fighter bay, pilots climbed into their Valkyrie strike craft. Each fighter was small compared with the Vanguard, but larger than most alien light attack ships. Their hulls were black. Their engines were overpowered. Their targeting systems were smart enough to fight beside the pilot, not just obey the pilot. Wing Commander Patrick Dunn called me from the bay. Fighters ready, sir. My people want to know how close you want us to get. As close as needed to protect the station. There was a short pause. So the civilians come first. Always. His voice changed. Less playful. More serious. Understood. No Dreth ship touches that station while we are breathing. On the marine deck, Captain Grace Fielding prepared her battalion. Grace was not tall, and she never raised her voice, but I had seen hardened soldiers straighten when she entered a room. Her Marines wore powered armor built for close spaces. Station corridors. Cargo bays. Airlocks. Docking tubes. Places where one wrong shot could kill a hostage. Boarding plan. I asked over the channel. For entry points, Grace said. 1 team for command level. 1 for civilian quarters. 1 for cargo deck. 1 for lower holding areas. We move fast, we separate hostages from armed death, and we keep damage low. Rules of engagement are tight. My people know the difference between a weapon and a frightened civilian. I know they do. Then give us the station, Commander. You will have it. In engineering, Chief Owen Blake coaxed power from the reactors like a priest pulling fire from an altar. Owen had helped build the Vanguard in the secret yards beyond Neptune. He knew the ship better than he knew most people. He spoke of her like she had moods. Reactor output? I asked. 96% in climbing, Owen said. I am keeping 4% in reserve. Why? Because you have a habit of asking for impossible things at dramatic moments. I do not have a habit. You absolutely have a habit, sir. Can she hold this speed? The ship can. The question is whether the laws of physics can accept the insult. Tell them to file a complaint. Owen chuckled. I will add it to the queue. By the 3rd hour, the first full scan of CO7 arrived through a stolen relay signal. The Dreth had sealed the docking ring. They had placed soldiers on the public decks. They had moved human citizens into a separate lower section. 43 humans, mostly merchants, engineers, and 2 medical workers. They were alive. For now. Soden was keeping them separate because he believed they were useful. He knew humans were coming. He believed he could use our people as pressure. He thought he understood us. That was his first mistake. There is a strange calm before a fight. It is not peace. It is not comfort. It is the mind becoming simple. Everything unnecessary falls away. You stop thinking about politics, reputation, history, and fear. You think about distance. Time. Hull strength. Civilian locations. Enemy range. The voices of your crew. The final hour began. I walked the ship. Not because I needed to check anything. My officers were better at their jobs than I was at theirs. I walked because people should see their commander before battle. They should see that the person giving orders is not hiding behind a chair. In the fighter bay, Patrick Dunn stood under the wing of his Valkyrie. His helmet was tucked under one arm. Big day, he said. Bigger than most. Are we showing the galaxy everything? Not everything. He smiled. Good. Best to keep a few surprises. Your surprise is staying alive. I will try to make that dramatic. Make it boring. Boring saves fuel, sir. I moved on. In the Marine staging area, Grace Fielding stood before rows of armored soldiers. Their helmets were off. Their faces were young, old, calm, tense, focused. Human faces, every one of them carrying the same quiet promise. Grace turned to me. Commander on deck. 200 Marines stood straight. I looked at them and saw New Bristol. I saw every human child who should have grown up under alien stars but never did. I saw every lesson the galaxy had taught us by refusing to act. There are 2,000 civilians on that station, I said. Most of them are not human. That does not matter. They called for help. We heard them. You will go in clean. You will go in fast. You will protect the innocent, secure the hostile, and bring everyone home. No one cheered. They did not need to. Grace nodded once. We are ready. I believed her. When I returned to the bridge, Catherine was waiting. Everything is set. Status? 5 minutes from system edge. I sat in the command chair. The chair felt heavier than usual. Not because of the battle ahead. Because of what came after. Once the vanguard appeared, every secret calculation humanity had made for 4 decades would become public. Every alien diplomat who smiled at us would wonder what else hid behind our quiet manners. Every hostile power would review every insult they had ever made. Every weaker species would ask whether humans might protect them too. One ship could not change the galaxy forever. But one moment could. Final checks, I said. Reports came in. Navigation ready. Weapons ready. Shields ready. Point defense ready. Fighters ready. Marines ready. Medical ready. Engineering ready. Communications ready. Lucy turned toward me. Commander, we are receiving continued distress traffic from CO7. The station is still under occupation. No signs of mass execution or reactor breach. Good. Catherine stood at her station. Dreth fleet remains in cordon formation. They have not detected us. Not yet. Nathan looked over his shoulder. 30 seconds. I leaned forward. Lucy, when we arrive, I want full identification on every open channel. No masking. No reduced signature. Ship name, class, registry, Navy, command authority. Lucy's mouth curved slightly. With pleasure. Nathan, drop us at the edge of the system. Full stop. Full stop at system edge. Simon, weapons on standby. We do not fire first. At the weapons station, Simon Drake gave a small nod. Simon was a quiet man from northern England. He spoke softly and aimed perfectly. If he was nervous, no one had ever seen it. Weapons on standby, he said. Catherine. She looked at me. If anything happens to me, you take command and finish the mission. Nothing will happen to you. That is not what I asked. Her expression did not move. If anything happens, I finish the mission. Good. The countdown reached 0. Nathan's hand moved. The stars snapped back from long white lines into hard points of light. The CO7 system appeared. A dim yellow star. 3 cold planets. 1 ugly asteroid belt. 1 relay station glowing in orbit around a barren moon. And 14 Dreth warships around it. For 11 seconds, I said nothing. For 11 seconds, the vanguard sat in darkness, systems controlled, active sensors quiet, running lights off, her massive hull hidden at the system edge. Passive sensors would see us first. Not clearly. Not enough to understand. Just mass. Too much mass. Some Dreth officer would stare at his screen and think the machine had made a mistake. Then he would check again. Then he would call his commander. Then someone would realize that a human vessel had arrived, but its size did not match any human vessel in any known database. I let them have the confusion. 11 seconds. Then I said, light us up. The vanguard came alive. Active sensors blasted across the system. Target locks painted every Dreth ship. Running lights burned along 4 kilometers of black armor. The identification beacon opened on every standard channel in every major language. United Earth Navy Vessel Vanguard. Titan-class Dreadnought. Registry UEN-001. Responding to distress signal from Relay Station CO7. On the tactical display, the Dreth formation froze. The frigates stopped their patrol loops. The destroyers drifted out of position. The 2 heavy cruisers turned toward us. I imagined their bridge crews staring at the readings. 4 kilometers. Titan class. Human. Impossible. Lucy turned. Incoming transmission from the Dreth flagship. Vessel identifies as Wrath of Soten. Put him through. The main screen changed. Vrek Soten appeared. He was broad and scaled, with 4 black eyes set in a diamond pattern. His armor was ceremonial, polished dark red, marked with gold symbols of conquest. Behind him, his bridge crew moved quickly, too quickly for comfort. They were trying to look disciplined, but fear had already entered the room. Soden stared at me. "Human vessel," he said through the translator. "You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself and withdraw. My name is Commander Daniel Hale of the United Earth Navy. You have attacked a neutral station and taken civilians hostage. You will remove your soldiers, release all prisoners, and leave this system." His upper eyes narrowed. "This station is under Dreth control by right of security action. You have no authority here. I have 43 human citizens on that station. They are unharmed. They are hostages. They are witnesses." The bridge became very still. Soden leaned closer to his screen. "You were expected to send a shuttle." "I know." He looked past me, perhaps at the bridge behind me, perhaps at the symbols on my uniform. "Then why send this?" I held his gaze. "Because you touched the wrong station." His mouth opened slightly. It might have been a smile. "You think one hidden ship changes your place in the galaxy?" "No," I said. "I think your next decision does." Soden's voice hardened. "You are surrounded by a Dreth assault fleet." "No," I said quietly. "You are standing between my ship and innocent people." For the first time, Soden did not answer at once. I gave him the terms. "You have 1 hour to surrender the station, release every civilian, disarm your boarding parties, and prepare to be taken into custody for trial." His lower eyes blinked. Or what? There it was. The old question. The question powerful people ask when they believe consequences are for others. Or what? I did not answer him. I looked at Simon. Simon understood. Deep inside the Vanguard, Godhammer began to wake. The change was felt before it was heard. A low vibration moved through the ship. It rose through the deck, through the chair, through bone. On the outer hull, 300 meters of cannon assembly shifted and locked toward the Dreth flagship. Soden's officers saw the energy rise on their scanners. Soden saw their faces. He knew, in that moment, that the thing pointing at him was not a threat made for show. It was a fact. "You have 1 hour," I said. Soden's 4 eyes burned. "You have 1 minute to flee." The channel cut. On the tactical display, the Dreth ships broke formation. Catherine said, "They are arming weapons." Simon said, "Multiple locks on our hull." Lucy said, "Dreth command channel is open." Soden has ordered all ships to attack. I took one breath. Not from fear. From respect for the moment. "All batteries," I said. "Weapons free. Protect the station." The Vanguard fired. The first Dreth salvo came as missiles. 312 of them. They launched together from 14 warships, bright dots racing across the void. Each carried enough force to tear apart a normal destroyer. The swarm spread wide, trying to confuse our defenses, then curved inward from every angle. The Vanguard did not turn away. She did not need to. "Point defense engaging," Simon said. The defensive grid opened. Hundreds of small turrets across the hull moved with machine grace. Lasers cut fine lines through space. Rail rounds flashed from hidden ports. Smart interceptors left the hull in silent bursts. On the tactical display, the missile swarm began to disappear. Not all at once. One by one. Clean. Fast. Certain. Each threat was tracked, assigned, and erased. 312 missiles became 200. Then 100. Then 20. Then none. "Intercept complete," Simon said. No impacts. The bridge stayed quiet, but I felt the crew absorb it. The Dreth had opened with a fleet killer strike. The Vanguard had brushed it aside like dust. "Target nearest destroyer," I said. Target locked. Fire primary batteries. 2 beams of white energy crossed the distance. The destroyer's shield flared blue, then white, then vanished. The beams punched through its front armor, crossed its center mass, and tore out the other side. For half a second, the ship remained whole. Then it folded inward and came apart. No grand explosion. No heroic fireball. Just a warship becoming wreckage. Second destroyer is breaking formation, Catherine said. Simon. Tracking. Disable if possible. Not possible at current angle. Then end it. The secondary batteries fired. The second destroyer split open along its engine section and went dark. 2 Dreth warships were gone in less than 15 seconds. Soden reacted faster than I expected. His remaining ships scattered into 3 groups. The first group stayed around his flagship. The second swung wide toward our left flank. The third turned toward CO7. 4 frigates, engines burning hard, heading straight for the station. He was going to use the civilians as a shield. Or worse, as a target. Patrick, I said. His voice came back instantly. Already launching. The Vanguard's fighter bays opened. 64 Valkyries burst into space. They moved like thrown knives. Their engines burned white as they raced toward the station, forming a screen between the Dreth frigates and the helpless people inside CO7. The frigates fired. The fighters scattered. To the eye, it would have looked like chaos. On the tactical display, it was beautiful. Every Valkyrie moved with purpose. They dodged plasma fire, rolled through missile locks, and struck the same shield points again and again. Patrick's voice came through the channel. Blue Wing, take the lead frigate. Gold Wing, break their weapons. Red Wing, stay on the station side. Nothing passes you. The first frigate lost shields in 40 seconds. The Valkyries did not destroy it. They cut its engines and weapons, leaving it drifting. The second tried to ram through the fighter screen. 3 Valkyries flew so close to its hull that their sensors almost touched the armor. They dropped piercing charges along the engine line and pulled away before the explosions bloomed. The frigate went dark. The other 2 slowed. They had expected shuttle escorts. They had found human pilots. The flanking group reached firing range. 2 destroyers and 2 frigates opened on our port side. Plasma bolts slammed into the Vanguard's shields. For the first time, the ship shuddered. Not much. Enough. Owen, damage, I said. Port shields at 89%. Minor outer armor scoring on decks 12 through 14. 1-point defense turret offline. No casualties. Repair crews. Already moving. The flanking group fired again. The ship shuddered a second time. Simon, I said, remove the flank. Simon's fingers moved. Targets locked. Fire. The Vanguard secondary batteries turned as one. 4 streams of fire crossed space. The 2 frigates died first. The destroyers lasted 3 more seconds. Then the left side of the tactical display cleared. The Dreth fleet had lost 8 ships in under 4 minutes. The remaining vessels pulled tight around Soden's flagship. Lucy said, incoming from CO7. Civilians are reporting Dreth soldiers withdrawing from public decks. Some are abandoning checkpoints. Grace, I said. Standing by, she answered. Prepare to board. Not yet. Understood. I opened a channel to the Dreth flagship. Soden appeared again. His face had changed. Before, he had been proud. Now he was furious. That was not the same as afraid, but it was close. Anger is often fear with armor on. You have lost more than half your fleet, I said. Your attack on the station has failed. You cannot defeat this ship. Stand down, surrender yourself, and I will accept the surrender of your remaining crews. Soden stared at me. You hide behind one machine and call it strength. No. I stand in front of 2,000 civilians and call it duty. His mouth curled. You are still a young species. Yes. You do not understand what you have done. I understand exactly what I have done. You have exposed your hand. No, Commander Soden. I have shown you one finger. For the first time, silence fell on his bridge. I let him think about that. Then Soden did what men like him always do when their pride is larger than their wisdom. He attacked. His flagship surged forward. 3 escort frigates followed. Every weapon fired. Missiles, plasma, rail slugs, and heavy beam fire crossed the void in one final desperate charge. It was brave. It was useless. Point defense, I said. Engaging. The incoming missiles disappeared. Plasma struck our shields and scattered. Rail slugs burned away before impact. The vanguard held position. Soden's ship kept coming. He meant to close range. Maybe he hoped to ram. Maybe he hoped one lucky shot could damage our main gun. Maybe he only wanted to die in motion because surrender was too honest. I looked at Simon. Godhammer. Simon did not hesitate. Charging. The vibration returned. This time, stronger. Lights dimmed across the bridge for half a breath as the cannon drew power. Deep in the spine of the ship, particles accelerated in a controlled storm. The whole vessel seemed to hold still around it. Godhammer charged, Simon said. Target. Wrath of Soden. Fire. The beam crossed space faster than thought. It was not like a laser from old movies. It was not a bright red line. It was a white wound in the dark, so intense that every screen automatically dimmed. It struck Soden's flagship at the bow. The shields failed instantly. The beam punched through the front armor, crossed the bridge, cut through the central spine, tore through the reactor housing, and exited the aft hull. For 1 second, the wrath of Soden remained together. Then it came apart along the line Godhammer had drawn. The flagship broke into sections, each glowing at the edges, each drifting away from the others in perfect silence. The 3 escort frigates stopped. Their weapons went dark. Their engines cooled. Lucy looked up. All remaining Dreth vessels are transmitting surrender. The battle was over. 14 minutes and 38 seconds after the first shot. The bridge did not cheer. Not yet. There were still people to save. Grace, I said. The station is yours. Breach teams launching now. 4 Marine shuttles left the vanguard and raced toward CO7. The Dreth soldiers aboard the station had seen enough. Most dropped weapons before our Marines entered their sections. A few tried to hide. None made it far. Grace's teams moved through the station with clean speed, checking rooms, freeing hostages, securing elevators, locking down power rooms, and cutting open sealed compartments. One Marine helmet camera showed a food court where dozens of civilians were huddled behind overturned tables. Valeth merchants, Orth technicians, 2 human traders, a family of small feathered aliens I did not recognize. When the Marines entered, the civilians raised their hands in fear. Then one of the human traders saw the flag on the armor. Earth. He started crying. Not loudly. Just enough. A Marine knelt in front of him. You are safe now. Those words moved through me harder than the battle had. You are safe now. That was why we built the Vanguard. Not to frighten the galaxy. Not to prove that humans could make bigger weapons. To say those words and make them true. If you are enjoying this human power moment, tap like and subscribe now. Share the video so more HFY fans can join the journey before the galaxy finds out what humanity has really been hiding. The station was secured in 47 minutes. Final count, 2,114 civilians rescued. 43 humans recovered alive. No hostages killed during the boarding. Dreth ground forces captured. Remaining Dreth ships disarmed and placed under guard. The numbers came in clean, but I read them 3 times anyway. Numbers mattered. Behind each number was a person who would see another morning because we came. Captain Grace Fielding reported from the station command deck. All civilian areas secured. Medical teams are treating minor injuries. Dreth commander in custody. Good work, Captain. He asked who we were. What did you tell him? I told him we were the shuttle. For the first time that day, I smiled. After the shooting stopped, the real storm began. Messages arrived from everywhere. The Valith government sent a formal statement of gratitude, written in language so polite it nearly hid the panic underneath. They thanked humanity for the rescue of their citizens. They praised the discipline of our forces. They called the liberation of CO7 a necessary intervention in defense of civilian life. Then, very carefully, they asked about the Vanguard. Not directly. The Valith never asked direct questions when a polite knife would do. They described her as an unregistered human vessel of previously unknown class and requested technical clarification for regional safety records. I forwarded the message to Earth. That answer was above my rank. The Orth Confederacy sent a shorter message. They wanted to know if the Vanguard accepted private security contracts. I deleted that one. The Myron Assembly asked whether humanity intended to deploy more Titan-class vessels near trade routes. The Kareth Republic asked whether the Vanguard represented a new military doctrine. The Sorvath Collective asked if Earth had violated the Transparency Accords. 3 minor border worlds sent quiet messages of thanks. Not public ones. Private ones. They said the Dreth had threatened them for years. They said the Council had done nothing. They said, in careful words, that maybe things would be different now. Those messages stayed with me longer than the angry ones. Because fear was expected. Hope was more dangerous. Hope made promises you had to keep. 6 hours after the battle, I received a priority call from Earth. Admiral Margaret Shaw appeared on my screen. She had silver hair, sharp eyes, and the calm voice of someone who had spent 30 years making impossible decisions and sleeping anyway. She had built the Vanguard program. Not with her hands, but with her will. She had fought politicians, admirals, budgets, treaty lawyers, and fear itself. She had picked my crew. She had picked me. Commander Hale, she said. Admiral. I reviewed the combat data. Yes, ma'am. Your crew performed well. They did. So did you. Thank you. Her expression did not soften. The galaxy is in motion. Every major government has requested an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The Dreth hegemony claims we violated the Transparency Accords by hiding a capital-class vessel. The Valith are arguing that the Dreth attack on a neutral station matters more than our ship. The trade powers are nervous. The smaller powers are watching. What are my orders? Remain at CO7. Continue humanitarian support. Protect the station if any hostile force returns. Cooperate with formal council inquiries, but reveal no classified technical details. Yes, Admiral. She paused. And Daniel. Yes. Do not apologize. I looked at her. For the Vanguard? For any of it. Not the ship. Not the secrecy. Not the battle. When they ask why we built her, tell them the truth. Which truth? The one carved into the wall at New Bristol. The call ended. For a long time, I sat in silence. The bridge around me moved with post-battle rhythm. Damage control team sent updates. Medical transferred patients. Lucy continued managing incoming messages. Catherine coordinated station relief. But I stayed still, thinking about a wall on Earth. 600 names. No speeches could make those names less dead. No victory could bring them back. But maybe, somewhere in the cold logic of history, the universe had finally received the answer it should have received 18 years before. Not revenge. Capability. The night after the battle, I walked to the observation deck. The Vanguard's observation deck was one of the few soft places on the ship. A wide transparent panel curved across the upper hull, showing the system beyond. CO7 turned slowly below us, damaged but alive. Lights flickered across its rings as repair crews restored power. Rescue craft moved in careful lines between docking ports. Farther out, the debris of the Dreth fleet drifted in silent clouds. Warships that had arrived as a threat now looked like dust catching starlight. Catherine joined me without speaking. She stood beside me for a long time. "You should sleep," she said. "So should you." I asked first. "I am the commander. I get to avoid good advice. You are the commander. You should model good judgment." "I model many things. Stubbornness is not a leadership philosophy. It has worked so far." She looked out at the station. "They are calling us heroes. People call you many things after you save them. Some are calling us liars. We were." She turned her head. I did not avoid her eyes. "We hid the vanguard. We hid what we were building. We smiled while the galaxy underestimated us. That was a kind of lie. It was also survival." "Yes. Do you regret it?" "No." She nodded slowly. "Neither do I." Below us, a civilian ship lifted from one of the station ports. Its lights blinked weakly, but it moved under its own power. Catherine watched it go. "The galaxy will not be the same after today." "No. Are we ready for that?" I thought about the crew. The ship. Earth. The colonies. The secret yards. The long years of being dismissed. We had 42 years to get ready. That does not answer the question. It is the only answer I have. Catherine seemed to accept that. Then she said, "Diplomacy without strength is begging in expensive clothing." I almost laughed. That is terrible. It is accurate. I cannot say that to the council. You should. They might finally understand you. She left me there with the stars. I stayed until the station's light steadied. The next morning, Lucy called me to the secure briefing room. "Commander, there is a request from detention." "Which prisoner?" She did not need to answer, but she did. "Vrex Soten." I looked at the screen. He survived. Emergency bridge capsule ejected before his flagship fully broke apart. Marine recovery teams found it inside the debris field. Dr. Marsh treated minor injuries. He is restrained and under guard. What does he want? To speak with you. Reason? He says he wants to understand. I almost refused. There was no tactical need. No diplomatic advantage. No personal desire. But command is not always about desire. Sometimes you step into a room because history is already waiting there. Bring him to briefing room 3. Full guard. 20 minutes later, Vrex Soten sat across from me. He looked smaller without his bridge behind him. Still dangerous. Still proud. But changed. His red armor was gone, replaced by plain prisoner clothing adjusted for Dreth anatomy. His scales were scratched. One of his 4 eyes had a dark bruise around it. His wrists were locked in magnetic restraints. 2 Marines stood at the door. For a while, neither of us spoke. He studied me. I studied him. At last, he said, "I have commanded fleets for 26 years. The translator carried his voice in flat English. I know. I have fought 11 species. I know. I have never lost a battle. You have now." His eyes narrowed slightly. Yes. He looked down at his restrained hands, then back at me. Your ship should not exist. Many people said the same thing during construction. No. You do not understand. A species like yours should not have built it. A species like ours? You are too young. I leaned back. You keep saying that like age builds ships. Age builds discipline. No. Pain builds discipline. Age only gives it time. Soten was silent. Then he said, "We underestimated you." Yes. All of us. Yes. Even the Valith. Especially the Valith. His lower eyes closed for a moment. You wanted us to underestimate you. We did not stop you. That is not the same. No. It is smarter. For a moment, something like respect crossed his face. I hated seeing it there. You built the Vanguard because of CO7, he asked. No. He already knew the answer. I gave it anyway. We built her because of New Bristol. The room changed. Not physically. But the name had weight. Soten's eyes shifted. You believe I ordered that attack? I know you did. The Council never proved it. The Council never wanted to. His jaw tightened. It was a border action. It was a colony full of civilians. It was a message. I leaned forward. So was today. For the first time, Soten looked away. Not from shame. I do not think he was capable of that. But because the shape of the universe had changed, and he could not yet fit himself inside it. You waited 18 years, he said. We prepared for 18 years. You could have attacked us. We are not you. That landed. His head turned back. You think this makes you better? No. I think what we do next decides that. He considered me for a long moment. Then he asked the question I knew was coming. How many? I said nothing. How many ships like this do humans have? The silence stretched. He watched my face, searching for a twitch, a breath, any sign that would tell him whether the Vanguard was alone. I gave him nothing. Then I smiled slightly. Enough. Soten went still. One word. Enough. It was not a number. That made it worse. If I had said 1, he could plan. If I had said 10, he could fear and plan. Enough gave him only uncertainty. And uncertainty is where proud men discover insomnia. He did not ask again. The guards took him back to detention. Catherine was waiting outside the room. How did it go? He asked how many vanguards we have. What did you say? Enough. For once, Catherine smiled. That was cruel. That was classified. Convenient overlap. The Galactic Council convened 3 days later. I attended by holographic link from the Vanguard's briefing room. Catherine stood at my side. Earth sent Ambassador Philip Garrett on the fastest courier ship available, and he joined the session from our comm suite. Philip was young for such a role, perhaps in his 30s, with dark hair, tired eyes, and the relaxed posture of someone who had learned early that panic wastes oxygen. He looked at me before the session opened. Have you ever addressed the full council? No. It is mostly theater. Good. I dislike theater. Then you will hate this. I already do. He smiled. Just tell the truth cleanly. Let them make the mess. The council chamber appeared around us in blue light. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of species filled the vast circular hall. The Valeth sat high in the central tier, graceful and unreadable. The Dreth ambassador stood beside a black stone podium, his scales dark with anger. Smaller powers clustered in their sections, quiet but alert. The council chair opened the session. The Dreth spoke first. Their ambassador accused humanity of secret militarization, treaty violation, destabilizing conduct, and unlawful deployment of a super-capital weapon. He claimed the Dreth action at CO7 had been a lawful security measure. He called the Vanguard an act of hidden aggression. Philip whispered, he is overplaying. The Valeth ambassador responded next. Her voice was calm enough to freeze fire. She reminded the chamber that CO7 was neutral. She confirmed that civilians had been taken hostage. She noted that Dreth forces fired first. She stated that without human action, thousands might have died. Then she turned slightly toward the Dreth ambassador. It is unusual, she said, for the arsonist to complain about the size of the fire brigade. Philip whispered, I like her. The Orth representative asked whether trade routes would remain open. The Sorveth asked whether humanity intended to reveal all hidden military assets. A small border world representative asked whether the council planned to discuss Dreth hostage-taking or only human ship design. That question caused a long silence. Then I was called to testify. The council chair addressed me. Commander Daniel Hale of the United Earth Navy, describe your actions at CO7. I did. I kept it simple. The distress signal. The attack. The hostages. The request for help. Our arrival. My offer to Soten. His refusal. His fleet firing first. The battle. The rescue. 2,114 civilians saved. No hostage deaths. No human fatalities. I did not boast. The facts were enough. Then the chair asked the question everyone wanted answered. Commander Hale, why did humanity conceal the existence of the Vanguard? The chamber became silent. Admiral Shaw's words returned to me. Tell them the truth. So I did. 18 years ago, a human colony called New Bristol was attacked by a Dreth raiding force. 600 civilians were killed. Humanity brought evidence to this council. The council expressed regret and took no meaningful action. No one interrupted. The lesson humanity learned was clear. In this galaxy, law protects you only when power is willing to stand behind it. We could have ignored that lesson. We could have trusted that the next attack would be different. We could have waited for someone else to care. I looked toward the Dreth ambassador. We chose not to wait. The holographic chamber felt very still. We built the Vanguard because we were taught that survival cannot depend on the sympathy of others. We did not build her to conquer. We did not build her to threaten peaceful worlds. We built her because one day, someone would call for help, and polite regret would not be enough. I let that settle. At CO7, that day came. The council chair watched me with old dark eyes. And now the galaxy knows. Yes, I said. Now the galaxy knows. Another representative spoke. I did not recognize the species. Small body, wide eyes, voice like glass. Should we fear humanity, Commander? It was a fair question. I answered it like one. If you plan to trade with us, speak with us, live beside us, and respect the lives of civilians, no. I paused. If you plan to burn our colonies, seize neutral stations, and take hostages, yes. Philip gave the smallest possible nod. The Dreth ambassador erupted, but the chamber did not move with him. That was the interesting part. Before CO7, the Dreth could make a room lean away by raising their voice. Now, several ambassadors simply watched him. Some even looked bored. Power had shifted. Not completely. Not safely. But enough for everyone to feel the floor move under their feet. The session ended without a final ruling. Councils love delay. Delay feels like wisdom to people who do not pay the cost of waiting. But the damage was done. Or maybe the healing had begun. It depends on who was speaking. If this part gave you chills, press like and subscribe before the council makes its move. Share this story with another science fiction fan who understands that humanity is patient, until patience is no longer enough. After the council session, messages changed. The angry ones became more careful. The thankful ones became less afraid. 3 small governments requested private defense talks with Earth. The Valeth sent an invitation for strategic dialogue, which was their elegant way of saying they wanted to know whether humans were now allies, rivals, or something more complicated. The Dreth hegemony moved 2 fleets away from human border space. They claimed it was a routine redeployment. Nobody believed them. On CO7, civilians began returning to damaged shops and apartments. Children came out of shelters. Engineers repaired broken doors. Food vendors reopened with half power and full determination. The station was wounded, but life returned faster than fear expected. I went aboard on the 5th day after the battle. Not as a conqueror. Not as a hero. Just as the commander of the ship still parked above them like a mountain. Station Commander Relvar met me at the docking port. He was Valeth, tall and thin, with silver robes damaged by smoke. He bowed. I returned the gesture as best I could. Commander Hale, he said. My station owes its survival to you. No. It owes survival to the people who held together until we arrived. His expression softened. A diplomatic answer. Was it bad? For a human, no. We walked through the central concourse. The damage was everywhere. Burn marks along walls. Broken signs. Sealed blast doors. Blood scrubbed from the floor but not entirely forgotten. Civilians stopped when they saw me. Some stared. Some whispered. A few nodded. Then a human woman stepped out from a small trading stall. Her hair was tied back. One arm was in a sling. Her name, according to the station rescue report, was Marisol Chen. She was one of the 43 humans Soden had separated from the others. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she crossed the concourse and hugged me. Security shifted, but I raised one hand to stop them. Marisol's voice shook. We thought nobody was coming. I did not know what to say. So I said the truth. We came. She stepped back, wiping her face. They said Earth would send a shuttle. I heard. She laughed once, broken but real. You sent that. She pointed upward, though the vanguard was not visible from inside the station. Yes. Good. A crowd had gathered now. Valith, Orth, human, Kareth, species I could not name. All looking at me, but not only at me. At what I represented. For years, humanity had been a polite footnote in galactic affairs. Now, to these people, we were the ones who came. That kind of reputation is heavier than fear. Fear makes enemies cautious. Trust makes people step toward you when they are bleeding. I left the station with that weight on my shoulders. Back aboard the Vanguard, Lucy had more news. You should see this. She put a public broadcast on the screen. It was from a small independent news network based near the border systems. The anchor was an insectoid being with a soft voice and fast hands. Behind him played sensor footage of the Vanguard arriving at CO7. The dark shape. The lights coming on. The Dreth fleet stopping. The headline underneath read, Humanity's Hidden Giant. The footage switched to Godhammer firing. Then to civilians being rescued by human marines. Then to my counsel testimony. The anchor spoke in calm words, but the meaning was huge. For decades, the galaxy had considered humans a minor power. After CO7, that belief was dead. Catherine watched beside me. That is going everywhere. Yes. Are you ready to be famous? No. Good. Fame makes officers stupid. I will try to stay ignored. You command a 4-kilometer secret dreadnought that just saved a station and terrified the Dreth. I think that plan has failed. She was right. By the end of the week, every child on Earth knew the name Vanguard. So did every admiral, ambassador, pirate, merchant, and warlord from the inner trade lanes to the outer border. Some called us defenders. Some called us deceivers. Some called us a threat. The crew called us tired. Humanity called us necessary. On the 7th day, Admiral Shaw sent new orders. The Vanguard would remain deployed. No longer hidden. No longer only a secret promise in the dark. We would become an open fact. Earth would admit the existence of the Titan program, but not its full size. We would reveal enough to prevent panic, and conceal enough to prevent foolish confidence from our enemies. Classic human diplomacy. Half handshake, half locked door. I read the orders twice. Then I sent them to Catherine. She arrived 5 minutes later. Well, she said, there goes retirement. I never promised you retirement. You promised me quiet postings after this command. I lied. Yes. Badly. We stood in my ready room, the stars bright through the small window. Our next patrol route takes us near 3 border worlds that requested protection, I said. Catherine nodded. Showing the flag. Showing the promise. Same thing now. Maybe it was. Before we left CO7, the station requested permission to transmit a farewell message to the Vanguard. I allowed it. The message appeared on every screen aboard the ship. Station Commander Relvar stood in the repaired central concourse. Around him were hundreds of civilians. Some bandaged. Some tired. Many smiling. He spoke in careful English. To the crew of the United Earth Navy vessel Vanguard. We expected a shuttle. We expected evacuation for a few. We expected fear, delay, and formal regret. Instead, humanity sent protection. You came not only for your own citizens, but for all of us. This station will remember. The crowd behind him lifted their hands, claws, wings, and tendrils in their many forms of respect. Then the message ended. For a moment, nobody on the bridge spoke. Owen's voice came over the engineering channel. Well, that was unfair. Now half my deck is crying near delicate machinery. A few people laughed. Even Catherine. I opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, this is Commander Hale. CO7 is secure. Civilian relief operations are complete. We depart in 1 hour for border patrol assignment. You did your duty with discipline, courage, and restraint. I am proud of this crew. I stopped. There was more to say, but not much. Remember why we came. Remember who we saved. And remember that power means nothing unless it stands between danger and the people who cannot stop it alone. I closed the channel. The hour passed quickly. The Vanguard pulled away from CO7 with slow grace. Civilian ships cleared a path for us. Station lights blinked in farewell. Repair crews paused to watch from observation decks. Nathan guided us out. Course set, he said. Take us forward. The engines answered. CO7 grew smaller behind us. Ahead waited a galaxy that had changed its opinion of humanity, though it had not yet decided what to do about that. That was fine. Let them think. Let them argue. Let them hold emergency sessions and draft nervous statements. Humanity had done enough explaining for 1 week. Now the Vanguard would patrol. Not to conquer. Not to threaten. To make sure the next distress call did not end in a council apology and a field of dead civilians. 2 days into the patrol, we received another transmission. Not a distress call. A private message from an unknown source on a minor world near Dreth space. Lucy traced it through 4 relays before it reached us. The message contained only 12 words. We heard what happened at CO7. For the first time, we slept. I read it once. Then again. Then I sent it to Admiral Shaw. Her reply came 6 hours later. Then the ship is already doing her job. That night, I returned to the observation deck. The stars looked the same as they always had. Cold. Bright. Distant. But I knew better now. Somewhere out there, governments were rewriting plans. Warlords were recalculating risk. Diplomats were choosing softer words. Small worlds were looking toward human space with new hope. The Dreth were watching their borders and wondering how many other surprises waited in the dark. And on Earth, at New Bristol Memorial, 600 names remained carved in stone. The dead do not smile. Walls do not stand taller. But sometimes, history shifts just enough that old grief becomes something else. Not peace. Not closure. A promise kept. The galaxy expected a shuttle. They expected a small craft with a nervous human crew, sent to collect a few citizens and flee before real powers made real decisions. They expected humanity to know its place. Instead, they saw the Vanguard. They saw 4 kilometers of human patience turned into armor. They saw 42 years of quiet work. They saw what happens when a species learns from pain, waits in silence, builds in darkness, and then arrives exactly when needed. They expected fear. They received resolve. They expected apology. They received warning. They expected a shuttle. They got the galaxy's most powerful human warship. And from that day forward, when humanity spoke, the galaxy listened. Not because we shouted. Not because we threatened. Because everyone had seen what waited behind our calm. Weeks passed, and the story of CO7 did not fade. It grew. Stories always grow in space. They travel with merchants, pilots, refugees, smugglers, diplomats, soldiers, and children who overhear adults speaking when they think no one is listening. In one version, the Vanguard destroyed the Dreth fleet in 1 minute. In another, Godhammer split a moon behind Soden's ship. In another, human marines walked through fire without slowing. None of those versions were true. But they revealed something important. The galaxy was not only talking about human strength. It was trying to understand human meaning. That mattered more. Strength without meaning is just danger. Meaning without strength is just hope. Humanity had shown both. At our next stop, a small mining colony on the edge of Kareth space, the people did not know whether to cheer or hide. Their leaders had requested human patrol presence after Dreth raiders were seen near their supply lanes. Earth sent the Vanguard because subtlety had already left the room. The colony was built into a hollow asteroid, lit by yellow work lamps and wrapped in old shield generators that looked older than some civilizations. Their governor came aboard with 3 aides and visible fear. He was not human. His species had long arms, dark skin, and wide amber eyes that moved constantly. When he entered the briefing room, he bowed too deeply. "Commander Hale," he said, "we are honored. You asked for help. We came. Yes, but we did not expect you personally. I go where my ship goes." He looked around the room as if the walls might listen. "Will your presence provoke the Dreth?" The Dreth attacked CO7 because they believed nobody would stop them. That belief is gone. And if they come anyway? Then we stop them. The governor seemed to relax by one breath. It was not enough, but it was a start. For 3 days, the Vanguard stayed near the colony. No Dreth ships appeared. Pirate traffic vanished from the region. Insurance rates dropped across 6 trade routes. Merchants began calling the patrol line the Human Quiet. I disliked the name. The crew loved it. Patrick Dunn had shirts printed in the fighter bay. Catherine confiscated them. Owen somehow got one anyway. Small things mattered after battle. A joke in engineering. A cup of coffee on the bridge. Pilots arguing over who had the cleanest station defense run. Marines painting small white station symbols on their armor, one for each successful rescue mission they hoped would come. Life continued. That is what soldiers protect. Not flags, not speeches, not grand ideas alone. Life. Mess halls. Repairs. Bad jokes. Children sleeping without fear. Merchants reopening shops. Old people walking through public squares without checking the sky. That was the real victory at CO7. Not destroyed ships. Living people. If you want more stories where humanity's strength comes with heart, like the video now, subscribe for the next one, and share this with someone who enjoys deep space stories with a powerful ending. 1 month after CO7, Earth released the first official statement on the Titan program. It was careful, polished, and almost painfully diplomatic. It confirmed that the Vanguard was a defensive asset of the United Earth Navy. It stated that humanity remained committed to peaceful cooperation. It explained that classified military development had been necessary due to repeated failures of existing galactic security structures. It did not say how many Titan-class ships existed. It did not say where they were built. It did not mention Godhammer by name. The galaxy reacted exactly as expected. The Dreth called it unacceptable. The Valeth called it understandable. The Orth called it economically disruptive. The smaller border worlds called it comforting, but mostly in private. Human citizens called it overdue. On the Vanguard, we called it Tuesday. That morning, I found Lucy asleep at her station with her forehead on her folded arms. She had spent 3 nights sorting intercepted traffic, public broadcasts, council debates, and encrypted Dreth chatter. I stood beside her for a moment. Catherine walked up behind me. She will deny being tired, she said. She is asleep on a military console. She will call it tactical listening. We should wake her. You wake her. She likes you better. She does not like anyone better when deprived of coffee. Lucy opened one eye. I can hear both of you. Then you are awake, Catherine said. I am professionally resting. Go to quarters, I said. I have Dreth chatter to analyze. Delegate it. I hate delegating. I know. Go sleep. She lifted her head, looked at me, then at Catherine, and sighed. Fine. But if the Dreth invade while I am gone, wake me politely. Catherine watched her leave. She is brilliant. Yes. She needs rest. So do you. So do you. We are a terrible example. We are command staff. That is traditional. There were moments like that all month. Human moments. Ordinary moments inside an extraordinary ship. I think that is what outsiders never understood. They looked at the Vanguard and saw a weapon. They were not wrong. But she was also a home. 3,000 people lived inside her metal bones. They missed birthdays. They argued about food. They watched old movies. They played cards in maintenance corridors. They wrote messages to families across impossible distances. They trained, worked, slept, worried, and carried the weight of being the first crew of a ship that had changed history. The Vanguard was powerful because of her weapons. She was human because of her crew. 2 months after CO7, we received word that Vrek Soden had been transferred to a secure Galactic Council holding facility. His trial would take years. The Dreth would delay. Lawyers would argue. Evidence would be challenged. Survivors would testify. That was fine. For once, Soden had time. He could sit in a cell and think about lessons. A few days after his transfer, I received a sealed message from the detention facility. It was from him. The message was short. You said enough. I now understand that the number does not matter. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. Some conversations did not need replies. The border changed slowly after that. Dreth raids decreased. Not everywhere. The galaxy was too large for one ship to calm every storm. But near human patrol zones, violence became less attractive. Other powers began inviting human officers to security talks they once held without us. Valith diplomats stopped calling us a promising young species. They called us a stabilizing force. I hated that phrase too, but Philip Garrett said it was progress. Diplomacy is mostly learning to enjoy ugly phrases, he told me during one call. I prefer direct language. I know. That is why I attend meetings and you command the enormous gunship. Dreadnought. Enormous gunship sounds friendlier. No, it does not. It does to civilians. No civilian hears enormous gunship and relaxes. You underestimate civilians. You overestimate phrasing. He smiled. That is why we make a good team. I did not admit he was right. The Vanguard's next major crisis came at a world called Halden's Rest. A small agricultural colony, mostly human, with a mixed alien workforce and 3 orbital grain platforms. Pirates had targeted the system before, but never in force. This time, 7 unidentified raider vessels jumped in near the platforms and began jamming communications. We were 12 minutes away. 12 minutes is not long. Unless you are the one waiting. The raiders knew we were nearby. That made them desperate. They tried to seize cargo fast and leave before we arrived. They failed. Nathan brought the Vanguard out of faster-than-light travel directly between the raiders and the planet. No darkness. No dramatic reveal. Just arrival. Lucy opened a channel. This is the United Earth Navy Vanguard. Power down weapons and prepare for inspection. 6 raider vessels surrendered immediately. The 7th tried to run. Patrick asked permission to pursue. I granted it. His Valkyries disabled the raider ship in 90 seconds. No deaths. No grand battle. No god hammer. No history-changing speech. Just protection, delivered on time. Afterward, the governor of Halden's Rest sent a basket of fresh apples to the ship. Real apples. Not printed fruit. Not hydroponic protein spheres shaped like apples. Actual Earth apple trees had been planted there decades earlier, grown in alien soil under a foreign sun. Owen guarded the basket like it was reactor fuel. Catherine allowed 1 apple per department head. The rest went to the galley. That night, the crew ate apple pie. It was not very good. The crust was too dense, and the filling was uneven. Nobody complained. It tasted like home. 3 months after CO7, the Valeth finally sent a formal envoy to the Vanguard. Her name was Ambassador Sela Ven, the same woman who had nodded to me during the council session. She arrived with a small honor guard and no visible fear. I respected that. We met in the observation deck. She looked out at the stars for a long time before speaking. When my government requested human assistance at CO7, she said, we expected evacuation, not intervention. I know. We underestimated the depth of your preparation. So did many. We also underestimated your restraint. That surprised me. She turned from the window. A lesser power, after revealing such strength, might have demanded tribute, territory, or submission. Humanity did not. We do not want an empire. Most empires begin by saying that. Then judge us by what we do next. I am. Her honesty was refreshing. She walked slowly along the glass. The Valeth have lived a long time, Commander. Long enough to confuse age with wisdom. Long enough to believe that patience and procedure could replace courage. The council failed New Bristol. Yes. I had not expected her to say it. She continued. We failed New Bristol. We called for investigation when action was needed. We feared escalation more than injustice. That fear cost human lives. I did not answer. Some apologies deserved silence, because forgiveness was not a tool to make the guilty feel better. Sela Ven accepted that silence. At CO7, humanity did what we should have done. For that, my people owe thanks. For New Bristol, we owe more than thanks. What are you offering? Support. Public support, not private sympathy. The Valeth Compact will back human security proposals in the Council. We will also share classified Dreth movement records from the last 20 years. Catherine, standing beside me, looked sharply at her. That could expose your sources. Yes. Why? Sela Ven looked back through the glass at the stars. Because the galaxy changed at CO7. We can either pretend it did not, or we can become worthy of the change. I liked her then. Not fully. Trust takes time. But enough. After she left, Catherine said, that was unexpected. Yes. Do you believe her? I believe she believes herself. That is not the same. No. But it is a beginning. The Valeth records arrived 2 weeks later. They proved what we had known for 18 years. Vrek Soten had ordered the attack on New Bristol. The evidence was complete. Ship logs. Fuel records. Command signatures. After-action reports hidden in Dreth military archives and copied by Valeth intelligence. Earth released the evidence publicly. The reaction was volcanic. Human anger returned, not wild but deep. The kind that does not burn out quickly. The Dreth denied everything, then claimed the records were false, then claimed Soten had acted without authority, all in the same week. No one believed them. At New Bristol Memorial, families gathered. I watched the broadcast from my quarters. 600 names carved in black stone. Flowers placed at the base. Old parents. Grown siblings. Children named after relatives they had never met. Admiral Shaw spoke there. She did not mention revenge. She did not mention victory. She said, the truth was delayed, but not destroyed. Then she read every name. All 600. It took a long time. Nobody changed the channel. By the end, I was sitting forward with my hands clasped, staring at the screen. Catherine came in quietly and placed a cup of coffee beside me. She did not speak. Neither did I. Some moments are too large for conversation. If this story means something to you, leave a like and subscribe before the final stretch. Share it with someone who believes science fiction can still carry heart, courage, and a little thunder. After the new Bristol evidence became public, the council could not hide behind delay anymore. Hearings began. Sanctions were proposed. Dreth allies grew quiet. Border worlds spoke openly for the first time in decades. One by one, representatives described threats, raids, forced treaties, missing ships, stolen stations, and tribute demands. The Dreth hegemony had built its power through fear, and fear works only when everyone believes they are alone. CO7 proved they were not alone. That was the real damage the Vanguard did. Not the ships we destroyed. The silence we broke. Humanity became a center of gravity. Not officially. No treaty declared it. No council resolution admitted it. But messages came. Delegations arrived. Patrol requests increased. Trade partners expanded routes through human space. The same species that once smiled politely at our small delegation now asked what Earth thought before voting. Philip Garrett looked exhausted and delighted. Congratulations, he told me over one call. You have made humanity popular and terrifying. That sounds unstable. It is diplomacy. Everything is unstable. How is Earth handling it? Carefully. Proudly. Nervously. Loudly. In committees. My condolences. Accepted. The Vanguard continued patrolling. We answered distress calls. Most were not dramatic. A damaged freighter near a dead moon. A medical transport with engine failure. A border listening post threatened by unidentified ships that fled before we arrived. A convoy that requested escort through old pirate lanes. Each time, the story grew less about the one great battle and more about presence. That mattered. Anyone can arrive once with thunder. Protection means staying after the thunder fades. 5 months after CO7, a child from the station sent a drawing to the Vanguard. It showed a tiny station, a group of frightened stick figures, several angry triangle ships, and one enormous black shape with lights all over it. Underneath, in careful letters, someone had written, "Thank you for coming." The drawing was passed around the bridge. Owen wanted to hang it in engineering. Lucy said communications had first claim because the distress signal came to her. Patrick argued that fighters saved the station side. Grace said the Marines actually entered the station, so the drawing belonged to them. Catherine listened to all of this, then took the drawing and placed it in a frame outside the command deck. Nobody gets it, she said. Everybody passes it. That settled the matter. Every day after that, crew members walked past the drawing on their way to duty. Some touched the frame. Some only glanced. I looked at it every morning. It reminded me of something no combat display could show. The Vanguard was terrifying from the outside. From the inside, she was a promise made visible. 6 months after the battle, the Dreth sent an envoy under truce. Not to Earth. To the Vanguard. That was unusual enough to make everyone tense. The envoy arrived in a small diplomatic cutter, escorted by 2 unarmed ships. Her name was Rek the Lawn. She was older than Soden, with faded scales and a voice like stone dragged across metal. She entered the briefing room alone. No guards, by her request. I allowed it, with Marines outside the door. She looked at me, then at Catherine, then at the Earth flag on the wall. The hegemony requests clarification of human intentions. I sat across from her. Our intentions are simple. Do not attack civilians. Do not raid our borders. Do not threaten neutral stations. You will find us peaceful. And if the hegemony refuses these terms? They are not terms. They are survival advice. Her eyes narrowed. You speak boldly for one commander. I speak plainly for one species. She studied me. There are factions within the hegemony who believe CO7 was an embarrassment that must be answered. I assume so. They argue that the Vanguard is only one ship. Maybe. They argue that enough Dreth vessels could destroy it. Maybe. They argue that humans lack the will for a long war. I leaned forward. Do you believe that? For the first time, the envoy looked away. No. Then tell them. I have. And? They do not like hearing it. Truth is often rude. She almost smiled. Almost. There are also factions who believe Soden was a fool. He was. And that open conflict with humanity would damage the hegemony beyond repair. They are smarter. I am one of them. That was the real reason she had come. Not to threaten. To measure whether peace had room to stand. What do you want? I asked. A quiet border. Prisoner exchanges. Rules for military distance around neutral stations. A way for both sides to step back without public surrender. Catherine watched her closely. You want a ladder down. I want my people to survive their pride. That was honest enough to respect. Not trust. Respect. I sent the report to Earth. Philip called me 12 hours later. This could be useful, he said. Or it could be a trap. Yes. You sound pleased. Diplomats are happiest when something is both useful and a trap. It gives us work. I worry about you. Everyone does. The talks took months. They were slow, tense, and ugly. The Dreth wanted language that protected their pride. Earth wanted terms that protected civilians. The Valith mediated with ancient patience and fresh guilt. Smaller worlds watched closely. In the end, the agreement was not perfect. No agreement ever is. But Dreth fleets pulled back from 3 disputed corridors. Neutral stations received new protections. Human patrols gained legal standing in emergency rescue operations. Hostage-taking became grounds for immediate collective response. That last part mattered. Because it meant the next CO7 would not have to wait for kindness. It would have law with teeth. And teeth mattered. On the day the agreement was announced, I stood on the bridge of the Vanguard and watched the news scroll across the screen. Catherine stood beside me. Not bad, she said. For committees and old enemies. Very not bad. Do you think it lasts? No. I looked at her. She shrugged. Not forever. Nothing does. But maybe long enough to save people who would have died without it. That was enough. Long enough mattered. Peace was never permanent. It had to be maintained, defended, repaired, and sometimes dragged bleeding through a doorway before it could stand again. The Vanguard was built for war, but her best work was making war less likely. That was the truth the galaxy slowly began to understand. A ship does not need to fire to be powerful. Sometimes it only needs to arrive. 1 year after CO7, the station held a remembrance ceremony. They invited the Vanguard. We returned. The station looked different. Repaired hull. New lights. Stronger shields. A memorial wall near the central concourse with the names of those injured during the occupation, and a simple inscription in several languages. For those who called. For those who came. For those who will never be left alone again. I stood before it with Station Commander Rel Var, Ambassador Sela Ven, Philip Garrett, Catherine, Grace, Lucy, Patrick, Owen, and 100 others. Marisol Chen was there too, no sling this time. She had rebuilt her stall. She gave me a cup of station coffee that tasted terrible, but I drank it with respect. A group of children ran past wearing little paper versions of Vanguard helmets. Catherine watched them. That is strange. What is? Being turned into children's costumes. There are worse fates. One of them is wearing a Godhammer cannon as a hat. I hope Owen did not design that. He absolutely designed that. During the ceremony, Relvar spoke. He told the story carefully, not as a battle story, but as a rescue story. That was important. He spoke of fear in the corridors, the silence after the Dreth arrived, the moment the station saw a huge unknown ship light up at the edge of the system, and the moment they realized the impossible vessel was human. Then he said something I never forgot. We did not learn that humanity was dangerous. We learned that danger was not the only power in the galaxy. I carried that sentence back to the ship. That night, I added it to my private log. There are many kinds of power. The Dreth had power through fear. The Valeth had power through age. The Orth had power through money. Humanity had discovered a different kind. Power through refusal. Refusal to be erased. Refusal to let grief become weakness. Refusal to abandon the helpless because the politics were complicated. That was why the Vanguard mattered. Not because she was the strongest ship. But because of where she chose to stand. If you have stayed with the story this far, you are the kind of listener every channel hopes for. Please like, subscribe, and share it now, because it helps this story reach more people who enjoy powerful human science fiction. Years later, historians would argue about CO7. They would debate whether the Vanguard saved the Council or broke it. They would ask whether humanity had acted out of duty, revenge, strategy, or all three. They would study sensor data, command logs, diplomatic cables, public reactions, and the quiet border agreement that followed. They would write books with long titles. They would give speeches. They would simplify what had been complicated and complicate what had been simple. That is what historians do. But I was there. And for me, CO7 was never about theory. It was about a scream through the speakers. It was about Lucy's pale face when she heard a Valeth beg for help. It was about Catherine asking if I understood what would change. It was about Nathan pushing the engines beyond comfort because people were waiting. It was about Simon holding Godhammer in reserve until there was no better answer. It was about Patrick's fighters placing themselves between frigates and civilians. It was about Grace's Marines telling hostages, "You are safe now." It was about Marisalchin hugging me in a damaged station concourse because she thought no one was coming. It was about 600 names at New Bristol. It was about 2,114 people at CO7 who got to live. Everything else was politics. Important politics, yes. But still politics. The heart of the matter was simple. Someone called. We came. The galaxy expected a shuttle because that was all it believed humanity could give. Maybe a small ship. Maybe a polite apology. Maybe a careful evacuation. Maybe a statement of regret after the Dreth finished doing whatever they wanted. But humanity had learned from regret. We had learned from waiting. We had learned from every closed council door and every soft diplomatic phrase that covered hard cowardice. So, in secret, we built something that could answer when words failed. The Vanguard was not born from hate. She was born from the decision that helplessness would not be our identity. That is what the galaxy missed. Humans are not strong because we love war. We are strong because we remember pain. We are strong because we build from scars. We are strong because when someone tells us a thing is impossible, some engineer somewhere starts sketching quietly on the back of a napkin. We are strong because we can wait 42 years, smile politely, and still keep building. Then, when the right moment comes, we arrive. Not always loudly. Not always with anger. But completely. After CO7, the Vanguard continued serving. Other Titan-class ships eventually became public. Not all at once. Earth revealed them slowly, carefully, with the kind of patience that had fooled the galaxy in the first place. The UEN Sentinel. The UEN Horizon. The UEN Resolute. Each one carried its own crew, its own stories, its own quiet promise. The Dreth never again attacked a human colony. They never again seized a neutral station with humans aboard. That was not morality. It was memory. They remembered CO7. Good. Some lessons should last. As for me, I stayed with the Vanguard for 9 more years. 9 years of patrols, crises, negotiations, rescues, false alarms, real alarms, bad coffee, long reports, and stars. Catherine eventually took her own command. She deserved it long before she got it. The day she left, she told me not to become sentimental. I failed immediately. Lucy became head of Naval Signals Intelligence and made every encryption officer in 3 hostile governments miserable. Patrick retired after breaking several flight records and claiming all of them were accidents. Grace trained the next generation of Marine boarding commanders. Owen refused promotion 4 times because, in his words, admirals are not allowed to hit engines with wrenches. The Vanguard remained. Ships age, even great ones. Panels are replaced. Armor is repaired. Systems are upgraded. Names are painted over and repainted. Crews rotate. Commanders change. But some ships become more than machines. The Vanguard became a symbol. Not of human dominance. Not if you understood her. She became the shape of a promise. A promise that when the powerful forget mercy, someone will remind them. A promise that neutrality without protection is only a sign waiting to be ignored. A promise that the young can learn faster than the old expect. A promise that humanity may be patient, but it is not passive. On my last day aboard, I walked alone to the observation deck. I was older then. My hair had gone mostly gray. My hands hurt in the mornings. My uniform still fit, but not as easily as it once had. CO7 was far behind us in distance, but never in memory. The stars outside were bright. The ship hummed around me, steady as breath. I placed one hand against the glass. "My ship," I said softly. No one answered, of course. But the deck vibrated under my feet, and for a foolish moment I imagined the old girl understood. Catherine, now Admiral Moore, once told me that commanders should not love ships. "Ships are tools," she said. "Tools with reactors and guns and crew manifests." She was wrong. Or maybe she was right, and I loved the people so much that the ship became part of them. Either way, leaving hurt. Before I stepped off the Vanguard for the last time, I stopped beside the framed drawing from the child at CO7. It was faded now. The tiny station. The scared stick figures. The angry triangle ships. The enormous black shape with lights all over it. "Thank you for coming." I read those words one final time. Then I saluted the frame. Not because of the drawing. Because of what it remembered. When my shuttle left the docking bay, I watched the Vanguard grow smaller through the window. 4 kilometers of armor and memory. The most powerful ship the galaxy had ever feared, and one of the most merciful things humanity had ever built. The pilot asked if I was all right. I said yes. It was almost true. Years after that, children in schools would ask me what it felt like to command the Vanguard at CO7. They expected a dramatic answer. Commanders are supposed to say dramatic things to children. I would tell them it felt heavy. That was the truth. Power is heavy. Responsibility is heavier. And the moment you forget that, you become the thing you once stood against. So I told them that humanity's greatest achievement was not building the Vanguard. It was choosing what to do with her. We could have arrived at CO7 and destroyed everything. We did not. We could have used fear to demand obedience from the galaxy. We did not. We could have become another empire with better engineering. We did not. We stood between danger and civilians. That was the choice. That was the line. That was humanity at its best. The galaxy expected a shuttle. They were not wrong to think we would come for our people. They were wrong to think we would come only for our people. That is what they truly failed to understand. Humanity is tribal, yes. Flawed, yes. Argumentative, emotional, stubborn, impatient, proud, and often foolish. But when we are at our best, we can look at a room full of strangers and decide they are ours now. Not because they share our blood. Not because they carry our flag. Because they are afraid, and we can help. That is the dangerous part of humans. Not our weapons. Our circle can grow. The Dreth built power by making the circle smaller. Only their people mattered. Only their strength counted. Only their victory had value. Humanity built the vanguard, then used her to protect Valeth, Orth, Kareth, Myron, and species whose names I still cannot pronounce correctly. That confused the galaxy more than Godhammer did. They understood weapons. They struggled to understand mercy backed by firepower. But they learned. Slowly. Imperfectly. They learned. And every time a distress beacon sounded in the years after CO7, ships answered faster. Not only human ships. Valeth ships. Orth ships. Kareth patrol craft. Even some Dreth captains under the new border accords. The culture changed. Not because everyone became good. That is not how life works. It changed because one moment proved that doing nothing was a choice, and the galaxy could no longer pretend otherwise. CO7 became a question every government had to answer. When someone calls, what do you send? A statement? A shuttle? Or something strong enough to matter? Humanity had answered. The answer echoed for generations. If this story kept you watching until the end, hit like, subscribe for more HFY stories, and share it with one person who would enjoy a tale where humans arrive with more than anyone expected. And that is the story of the day the galaxy expected a shuttle. They expected a small human craft, scared and obedient, slipping through Dreth guns to save only its own citizens. They expected weakness dressed as caution. They expected another minor species to learn its place. Instead, the darkness at the edge of the system opened its eyes. The vanguard lit up. For kilometers of human memory. Human grief. Human patience. Human engineering. Human refusal. The Dreth saw it. The Valeth saw it. The civilians of CO7 saw it. And in that moment, the galaxy saw humanity clearly for the first time. Not as children. Not as pets. Not as a small, loud species with clever hands and soft hearts. They saw what we had always been becoming. A people willing to build in silence. A people willing to wait. A people willing to protect strangers. A people willing to answer cruelty with strength, and strength with restraint. That was the part that mattered. The vanguard could destroy fleets. But her greatest victory was not destruction. It was arrival. It was the moment frightened civilians looked out from a captured station and realized they had not been forgotten. It was the moment a warlord learned that consequences can travel faster than pride. It was the moment the council learned that regret is not justice. It was the moment humanity stopped being underestimated. After that, the stars looked different. Not because they changed. Because everyone looking at them did. Somewhere beyond those stars, there would always be another crisis. Another tyrant. Another station. Another call for help. The universe is vast, and danger has many names. But after CO7, one truth moved quietly through every trade lane, every border outpost, every council chamber, and every war room. If a distress signal reaches humanity, do not assume they will send what you expect. Do not assume they will send something small. Do not assume they will ask permission from fear. Because humans remember. Humans prepare. Humans come. And sometimes, when the galaxy expects a shuttle, humanity sends the vanguard.